My wife is a dirty cheater. She only cares about money and living all these luxurious lifestyles. Well, guess what? She's cheating on me with a really rich guy, and he's in his 80s. But don't get it twisted. He's not as rich as she thinks he is, and he's more of, well, you'll see. You won't ever find me writing about myself or about my life. But I could not help it. I need help. I'm typing this up late at night thinking about how much I screwed up. It hurts when your life goes downhill and you know it's not your fault. The hardest thing about a relationship is that one person alone can't control the fate of it. It takes two to make it work, and I gave it my best, but my wife did not. I gave Janice everything she ever wanted, but as soon as I asked her for her support, she turned her back on me and left me down in the dumps. She lied to me, cheated on me, and then left me. Now I realize that I've always been alone, but the loneliness hits harder after the realization. The delusion and the lies felt better. I made a mistake and I married Janice. It was all going well until I had enough money for her needs. Things started going downhill when I took a business risk. I thought I would go places, but things took a terrible turn. I failed. Miserably. I expected my wife to support me through thick and thin. As a businessman, I'm fully aware of and prepared of things like this. I don't quit, and I'm always ready to rise back up. My wife, however, did not understand this and got frustrated by our temporary financial setback. I asked her to work for a bit so that our son Ethan wasn't affected by our problems. I thought she understood, but instead the woman went out and cheated on me with a wealthier man. When I asked her to leave him, she called me useless and handed me divorce papers. I feel helpless and dejected because she left me and just took my son with her. I don't know how to process this because I feel powerless and lonely. I can't stop thinking about the betrayal. I'll start from the very beginning, before I got to know Janice. I was going through a really bad breakup, and I was trying my best to reconcile, but she cut all contact, and I've given up. I had nothing else to do, and thought the best way to move on would be to find someone else. Janice worked at my bank, and I had some issues with my bank account. So I visited the bank 2 or 3 times to solve the problem. Janice caught my attention, and I was really attracted to her. I bumped into her on the streets deliberately later on and asked her out, and I was very focused on my business because I had luckily achieved success through my hard work. I own a restaurant that reached success within the first year of its inception. I found that the harder I worked, the more money I made. I would constantly make changes and use feedback to make sure that I was selling better over time. The lack of time I gave to the relationship was the reason of my previous breakup. But Janice did not seem to care that I did not give her time. She had other friends, and unlike my ex, her life did not revolve around me. Whatever I did, she didn't care. My ex would fight if I messed up. I liked peace and quiet. There was absolutely no arguments between us whatsoever. I would give her expensive gifts and she would be happy. Happy with our relationship. I asked Janice to marry me and she said yes. We had a low-key but beautiful wedding, and our parents were happy with the union, and Janice is one of the 5 siblings and is not very close to her family. We would often visit our parents, but we would see her family hardly once every 2 years on an occasion like a wedding, but they never called much either. In fact, I've hardly met her parents more than 4 times. We weren't in constant contact with any of our family, and I just wanted to highlight that I've never had a third-party person perspective on this. Janice would always behave directly different in front of our friends. See, on our honeymoon, she starts discussing our marriage and how she would like things to be. She told me that she does not want to work at the bank anymore, and that I earn enough through my business to support the both of us. Well, I agreed to her terms because she convinced me that someone with such a successful business would never let his wife work as a bank teller. She also demanded a monthly allowance for her personal experience and all her expenses. When we came back home, she spent a lot of money to make our home a nice place to live. She even hired a maid to cook and clean for us. She started spending the money, all of it, to make our home so nice. I was loving the change, to be honest, but despite the amount of money that was going into it, I admired her and the change that she brought into my life. She raised my standard of living and expected nothing of me except a monthly allowance. She did not expect me to take her out and have fancy dinners. She preferred the company of her friends, and I was putting more back into work anyways. Well, 2 years into our marriage, we had Ethan. That's when I decided that I wanted to give more time to my family. I gave Ethan everything that Janice thought was best for him. She said that she needed help, and we had a full-time nanny for him now. I loved coming home to Ethan and playing with him, and as soon as Ethan was old enough, Janice went back to her old ways of going out with her friends again. After she married me, she found a new circle of trophy housewives. I didn't even categorize Janice as one of them until Ethan was born. I expected her to spend more time with me and my boy, but she left all of Ethan's responsibilities to the nanny. Janice and I started to argue over it, In the end, I could not convince her to spend more time with us. I started to take initiative and make plans, but Janice wasn't interested. It was just me spending time with my son, and Janice would be absent. Even when she was at home, she'd be watching TV on the phone, or I started to think about how my parents would be too busy for me when I was a kid. I didn't want my son to go through what I went through, and I just feared he would be alone growing up. So I tried to give him my best. I could not convince Janice to do the same, and I was afraid that I would lose her. So I never said anything to her. I just feared separation with Janice. I've always been the kind of person who hates change. I thought that I would be miserable without Janice, and my biggest misconception was that arguments are bad and can kill a relationship. When things reached a point where we were arguing about something, I'd step back and I apologize. I started to think about how my ex was right for fighting for my time because I was finally in her shoes. It was probably karma hitting me, but I definitely learned my lesson. I found myself craving a normal marriage and wanting a proper family. So instead of giving up on our marriage, I tried to find a way to make plans with Janice and Ethan. I tried to take them out on picnics or the zoo, but Janice wasn't interested and seemed absent despite being physically present. She noticed my efforts and proposed we go on a vacation. She organized a luxurious holiday, but my son got bored. Her idea of a vacation was being cooped up in a hotel room, enjoying spas, massages, and fancy dinners. Our son ran into the beach, and Janice shouted at him for embarrassing us and getting his clothes dirty. I didn't like the way that she was behaving with our boy. Janice was restricting him from having fun, and I did not appreciate her helicopter parenting method. Ethan did not like the food she was ordering and wanted burgers and chips. She even fed Ethan peanuts, and guess what? He's highly allergic. The fact that she didn't even know about her son's allergies of peanuts, it disappointed me. We had to cut our trip short and come back home. That's when I quit wanting to spend time with her, and after that, it was just me and Ethan, and I was quite happy with that. Janice was at peace with it too, and I convinced myself that Janice just isn't cut out to be a good parent and wife. She had a lot of difficulty with kids and doesn't know basic things about kids' behavior. She gets mad that 4-year-old Ethan could not tie his shoelaces and insisted that we get him checked for any disabilities. I still remember the huge drama that went down because she was just sure something was wrong with Ethan. She forcefully took him to 3 different doctors just because she wanted to prove her point. Ethan and I were inseparable, but his bond with Janice was broken. He would not listen to a thing Janice would tell him, and Janice didn't know how to deal with him. Janice lost interest in Ethan's life completely, and at one point I was raising him alone with the help of Ethan's nanny. Trouble started in our paradise when I started a new venture. I was quite confident because I've never seen failure before. The slopes only went upwards or stayed constant, it never went down. Well, it failed miserably in the 6 months of the venture, and that was at a severe loss. I had to shut down the restaurant and pay off all the losses, and I used my personal expenses to cover it. The losses, I'm still required to do so. I had to sack the housekeeper, fire the nanny until further notice, and I'd spent all the savings I earned from my original restaurant, and I owed a lot of people. I wanted to do something huge in my new venture and was very sure it would work. So I put everything I had into it, and guys, it just straight up backfired. We were close to rock bottom, and I expected Janice to understand, but I was wrong. Janice did not want to compromise and insisted that she got her monthly allowance. She was mad at me because I fired the housekeeper. I politely asked her to work and help with the household expenses, and she argued with me over it, calling me stupid and a failure for taking so much risk and having it affect our family. I did not take things personally and thought it was her frustration speaking. I promised her that I'd give back up in a couple of months and that I needed her support. I managed to convince her to work, and we put our son inside of a daycare. A month after she starts to work, I just expected her to contribute her pay for household expenses. But she argued that the reason she was working was so she could continue to live the lifestyle that she wants. That's not enough with the household expenses added. I told her that it's not that important, that she could just put her expenses on hold for some time until we're good enough. But Janice did not listen. Things were getting pretty difficult for us, and every day I picked Ethan up from school and brought him back to work. Ethan was extremely patient with me, and my employees were kind enough to keep him busy. They pretended he was a little intern at our restaurant, and I'd come home and do household chores because Janice insisted that we, should hire someone to do them. Janice always ate out before coming home. She lived like a guest in our home, rent-free, and that's when I could not control myself. I would constantly fight with her every day and condemn her for being the worst, most unsupportive wife ever. And she would attack me for my failures and blame it all on me. I was all over the place, and I was so busy that I knew nothing about where Janice worked or what she did. She just told me she works at a bank. A couple months later, I shockingly discovered that it was a lie. Janice did not have a job. She was cheating on me with an older man who was loaded with money. I'm not going to reveal his name, but let's call him John. He's 71. John is a bald old man with a nasty personality, and you would never expect Janice to be with such a man. He's a complete pervert, too. When I found out about Janice's affair, I was devastated. She admitted that she did it for the money, and what I did next made me lose every ounce of self-respect I had. I told her that I would take her back, and that she would forget about John and we would just move on. Janice thought about it and took advantage of the fact that I was willing to forgive her. She proposed that she continues the relationship with John and that she could live on his money until things got better for us. I think the idea was absolutely absurd. I thought she was going crazy, and I told her that I was going to have none of it. Janice handed me divorce papers the next day and told me that she was going to marry John instead. I didn't try to convince her to stay after that because she lost all the respect I had. I went through the lengthy and tedious process of divorce, but I had not fully taken in what was happening in my life and hoped it was all a dream. I could not focus on my work throughout, and it was a time I needed to work the most. My lawyer and friend took care of me. At the time, I was just numb, and the thing that hit me the hardest was that Janice took my son away, and I would only get to see him on the weekends. Janice had surprisingly filed for my son's custody, and I know it's because she wants to use Ethan as leverage. It's how her selfish mind works, and it was a tough custody battle, and she won it. Ethan did not understand how divorce works. He asked to choose between us, and he wasn't able to give a straight answer, but was inclined toward me. Because of the crisis I was facing in life, I had started drinking a little more than I should. Janice and her lawyer, whom John had hired, proved that I was an alcoholic and unfit to take care of little Ethan. The court decided to give Janice custody, and I would have to give her child support. She wanted maintenance for herself, too, but she was denied it because she lied to me and cheated. I was completely dejected and down in the dumps, and knowing my son would not be living with me. Shortly after the divorce process, Janice and John got married. I saw their wedding video on my profile, and she acted like it was true love, and it had the hashtag #LoveHasNoAge. I found it disgusting and cringeworthy that I'd married someone the same woman like this. I even loved her and accepted her for the way that she was. Janice hired the same nanny for Ethan since there was no one better that could handle him. Even Janice knows that, and the nanny was secretly in touch with me and would give me updates. I heard from the nanny that Janice convinced John to write a will and is trying to influence him, and it was clear that she married an old man just so she could inherit his wealth and live a luxury of life. She even pretends like she doesn't care about money, and she truly loves John. John only wants a good-looking wife. I heard that he still goes to strip clubs and has fun with the boys. The nanny informed me that John verbally abuses Ethan, will scare him by raising his hands. I was shocked when I found out and immediately filed for his custody. It all backfired because John used his connections to make baseless allegations against me. Ethan had fallen over on the playground and gotten hurt. Using this incident, they proved I was negligent and incapable of taking care. I could not prove his abusive behavior and I lost the case. I could not even see him on the weekends anymore, and Janice fired the nanny and hired a new one after she found out that she was supporting me. A week after I lost the case, I get a call from Ethan's school. His teacher said that he was sick and wanted to talk to me. I went rushing and picked him up from the school. The school authorities weren't told that I wasn't allowed to see him. So Ethan revealed that he was just pretending to be sick so that he could see me. I spent the rest of the afternoon with him and then dropped him off at home. Well, this made Janice so mad and she accused me of kidnapping him. Janice and John had put a restraining order against me and I wasn't allowed to see Ethan at all after that. The last time I saw my son, he was crying to see me. He secretly has been calling me, telling me that he misses me, but I feel so helpless and I can't do anything. I'm currently consulting a good lawyer, and I'm just taking help from the authorities to gather evidence that I can to take better care of Ethan more than Janice. John had a lot of connections, and it's really difficult to get evidence against him. On the other hand, I'm under pressure to set things right on the business front. I haven't fully recovered from the divorce. I just feel like I've hit an all-time low. I can't focus anywhere, and I feel absolutely helpless. I need more clarity in life, and I want to fix things. I hope things will turn out for the better. Update number 1. Hello. I did not expect so many people to read and just have so many responses. I'm truly overwhelmed, and just for a moment when I read all your comments, I felt I was not alone. There are so many people who are in the same situation as me or even worse, and I've been reading a lot of comments telling me to get back at Janice for what she did, and sometimes I really want to do something, but my conscience stops me. I've started believing in karma because, satisfyingly, Janice got what she deserved. I do have a major update. Janice's dreams were coming true. It seemed as if her plans to get rich worked because, unfortunately, John passed away from a heart attack. I did not go to the funeral, but I was invited. What happened next was unbelievable. Janice's plan had backfired. The will was read, and it turns out John has an estranged son. He inherited John's share of the company he founded, which he hired and retired from. The company was John's only source of income, and it was a huge amount, and it all went to his son, who showed up at the will reading. His son was now a stakeholder in the company and held 2 major positions. Janice had no clue he even had a son, and here's the deal breaker. Janice was to inherit the rest of his assets as his wife, but John was in a lot of debt. So all the assets that were supposed to go to Janice were sold off to pay for the debt. Everything was auctioned off, and I mean everything. Janice was literally sobbing. In short, Janice did not receive anything she expected, and her plan failed miserably. Janice had to move out of the estate with Ethan after it was sold, and she moved into a small apartment, found a job as a teller to support their needs, and Janice spent a lot of money on legal advice to find ways that she could get any of the assets or even sue John's son. She was trying to see if there were any doors opened for her to at least get something. Even the household items and jewelry were sold off. Janice was left with absolutely nothing, and John's debts were all because of bad investments. I think that he knew that all his wealth would go into paying the debt. We would never know, but I strongly feel that he made a fool of Janice. It was a way to deceive her into marrying him. I don't think anyone's that stupid, but it turns out that Janice is. She didn't do any kind of background check, and she worked in a bank, and I think she had ways to find out if she wanted. I'm literally laughing at her stupidity, and my friends laugh at her too. Janice could not do anything and had no option but to return to living a normal life. Plus, she has Ethan's responsibility too. Ethan's been giving her a hard time because she's never really bonded with him. She's never been a mother to Ethan, and I don't know why she took him away. She didn't have to bring him into this, and she could have just gone about her way and left us alone. But she wanted extra money. Thankfully, her actions don't affect Ethan because I'm paying for him, but I still believe that the poor kid's going through a lot. Janice still does not want me to see Ethan, and I'm not allowed to see him. I'm extremely grateful that his best friend's mom understands and lets me talk to him over the phone whenever he's over at his house. Ethan keeps me updated on how they're doing, and I miss him a lot. Hopefully, by the next month or so, I'll legally claim his custody. I'm currently speaking to my lawyers about this, but I also have a lot going on in my professional life. I would also like to share that I've made attempts to fully become sober. It's going well. Sometimes I fail, and I'm trying not to be too hard on myself, but it's a step I've taken for Ethan. I'll let you guys know how everything goes down. Thank you so much for all your support. Update number 2. Hello. I promised an update, here it is. First of all, I'm very happy because it's the first time in 2 years that things are going well. I've drawn out a couple of months' wages, and all my employees have also been paid on time, and we've made some profit too. When things started looking up, I decided to back to court to settle things with Janice. She obviously resisted the fact that I wanted Ethan's custody because she would not be liable for maintenance every month once she lost his custody. It was a long court battle, and Janice tried her best to fight hard for Ethan's custody. Ethan did not want to choose sides, but he was more inclined towards living with me. I proved in the courts that I'm not a heavy drinker and that I'm more responsible than Janice to take care of my son. Janice tries hard to collect evidence against me, saying that I was a bad father. She made baseless claims, but none of them could be established to be true. She tried to play a dirty game and tried to use social media influence to get people on her side. She made a video telling people that I was a bad husband and a bad father, and I'm trying to take her son away. Our nanny responded to the post and defended me. She called her out and said she was an absent mother and that she did not deserve her custody. After that, even Ethan's best friend's mom and Ethan's teacher came in support and slammed her online. She got plenty of hate on social media, and furthermore, they testified against her for me. And after careful consideration, the court decided that I would have custody of my son, and Janice would only have visitation rights. So, when Janice lost custody of Ethan, she moved into a bachelor apartment. She was paying rent with the money I gave her every single month, but now that she wasn't liable for it, she had to downsize her luxurious life to go back to living the way that she was. Well, when I look back, I realize that the only thing she ever wanted was money. And, in pursuit for it, she lost everything. I, however, am grateful that she left my life, and I don't have to live in a lie. My marriage, with her, it was not real at all, and I was tired of pretending, hoping for better days, and trying so hard. I thought if I tried hard, she would appreciate it, but we did not want the same things. Her relationship with me was tied to money, and I definitely did not want Ethan to see that growing up. I don't want Ethan to grow up in such a dysfunctional house, even if it means that he won't have both of his parents together. Well, Ethan is back home, and I'm really happy I can't do it alone. So I did hire our nanny again. She's a lovely lady, and she helps me a lot. I do appreciate her support, and she's like family to us, and Ethan had missed out on a lot of school because of Janice's negligence. Well, it's been a tough past year, and I want to focus on getting his life and academics back to normal. I've enrolled him in music classes to keep him busy. I'm considering signing him up for another class, but I'm really confused on whether I should put him in gymnastics or, soccer. Please give me suggestions in the comments and let me know if you have children in those classes and how it benefited your child. I now realize that there's really no shame in asking people on the internet about their opinions. Of course, I won't blindly follow, and in the end, I'll do what feels right. Thank you for reading and commenting and supporting me, even if you don't know me. I think the worst part of today's story is the fact that there's a child involved, a 6-year-old being Ethan, being dragged back and forth between his dad and his mom in custody battles, and it just seems like it's bad for Ethan because he kept asking all these questions that he just could not understand yet. I want to know your thoughts about it. And do you think that OP's ex got the revenge justice that she deserved? I mean, yeah, she got some karma at the end with the mountain of debt, but was it enough? Let me know what you guys think in the comment section. Also, I want to hear from you about what you would have done in this situation. I mean, it's pretty heartbreaking being OP and finding out that they're taking your son away, who meant so much to you. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below, guys. My name's Mr. Reddito. I narrate stories like this every single day. And if you guys want to be a part of these daily drama readings, consider subscribing to the channel. I'll see you tomorrow, and of course remember, it's cool to be kind. See ya.